All right, welcome everyone to the XR News. Oh, yay! We are here today with Maxwell McGee, and I am so excited that you're here. But let's go through the first intro thing before we get formally to introduce you, Maxwell. So this is the Educators in VR produces the XR News, and my name is Laurel. I am the executive director, and I am also the co-founder of Educators in VR and producer of the XR News and whatnot. We meet every Wednesday here in Engage XR. Next year, we're going to be also visiting some other platforms and other things, so stay tuned. You got to follow along to keep up with all of it. The XR News Med Health team meets on the first Wednesday of the month. XR News Show, where we report the news and interview amazing guests, is on the second and the third Wednesdays of the month, and the fourth Wednesdays of the month, and the third Wednesday of the month is our amazing team here that we absolutely adore, the Innovation Spotlight team, and we're just so thrilled to be having them here. And now I'm having technical problems. Hang on a second. There we go. Now we have all the technical problems are going constantly here. Just never ends. So the Innovation Spotlight with the XR News Innovation Spotlight usually has the amazing Maxwell McGee, who is here, and the Dr. Tom Furness, who's considered the grandfather of VR. He's traveling. Unfortunately, we're having some trouble getting him in here. And then with the amazing Chris Madsen here of Engage, he is a XR scientist and researcher, salesman, engineer. He's amazing, and he unfortunately has a little health issue, and he'll be back in a few weeks. So that just came up today. So we are going to have fun with this. With just Maxwell here, and he's just don't worry, we're going to have way too much fun. Educators in VR is being filmed live, and it is again produced by Educators in VR, and you can track all of the information. You can see this on YouTube once it's up, been filmed and shoved up there by our amazing volunteer teams. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Facebook and Blue Sky and and Discord and everywhere else. So you can follow what's going on and keep up with us as we bring you all the news and all the information in the metaverse coming up. And we've been running since 2018. This is the oldest, longest running news show focused on the metaverse in the world. So we're pretty dang proud of this. We cannot do this without our sponsors, and including Educators in VR, Reinhardt Foundation, Girls Team Institute, the Vertex Form 3D that I was just talking about earlier with everybody, Bridge Makers, Virtual World Society, Cadets Metaverse, Immersive Learning Research Network, and the incredible folks at Engage XR make this possible. So now we are here to talk to and about and haunt and torture the incredible Maxwell McGee. You are, yay! All right, so Max is an award-winning national voice actor, broadcaster, multimedia technology specialist, and VR developer with over 15, almost 20 years experience, 15, somewhere between there, years of professional experience, and in a unique way is an absolute pioneer because he bridges the gap. There's not really a gap, but entertainment and acting in with immersive technology and education. So that's groundbreaking stuff. You have a Master's of Education's MEd, as we say, from Post University, and a Bachelor of Science in Digital Recording Arts from New England Institute of Technology, right? And you do not only voice acting, all forms of broadcasting and everywhere, but also multimedia production, immersive technology production expertise, and you had the amazing Engaged podcast here in Engage. Yep, you've done so many things. So my first question, and we're going to have a ton of questions with the audience and everyone, and we're going to have some fun here too. My first question is, did you win your first award in middle school? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. It's so funny. I don't think I've been interviewed in about 3 or 4 years. So apologies if I start off sounding a little awkward because I'm not used to being asked the questions. So first off, well done on your research. That is very, very impressive. Nobody's ever been able to figure that out before. So technically it was in middle school. So it was many, many, many years ago. in middle school, and it was actually a multimedia competition. So the middle school lab where I was attending school was having a competition to see who could create the most interesting video tutorial for utilizing the lab. And I actually was making claymation starting at 6 years old, and
Oh,
they were the
wow.
worst thing that you've ever seen in your life. They were horrifyingly bad. Here's the interesting fact. Now, we all know with claymations, right, it's stop motion animation. It's like, you take a picture here, and then here, and then here, and then here, and then here. I didn't have that type of camera. I had a VHS camera. So I would press record, and then I would stop real quick, and then I would have to move it all the way over here. I would have to move it in like very large variances of actual physical motion because I couldn't technically do full stop motion capture. And then when I wanted to do voices, the characters would have to be frozen. So they would be frozen, and then I would do the voice, and then they would move, and then they would do their second or third line or whatever it might be. My parents, they didn't want to buy me a stop motion camera, so they were like, just use this VHS camera. And basically that also kind of started my problem solving, which was, okay, I want to make claymations, which is stop motion animation. How do I do that with a VHS camera? So I had to get creative. Eventually I started creating like claymation puppets. So I started using strings and wires in order to get them to move in a way that seemed like stop motion animation, that copied stop motion animation. So kind of tried to a little bit create a new way of doing stop motion animation because I had no other options. And ultimately I won that first award, and that was actually my first paycheck as well. They loved it so much they asked me to actually create the professional tutorials, and I was only 12 years old, so that was my first paycheck as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, how do you go from middle school to tell us about the other awards, because that was the first one, obviously the most exciting, but you then won all kinds of different things as you went into. Okay, so I have so many questions, but let's start with the awards, and then I want to get to more specific things. So hit me with the awards.
So for the awards, it was actually for a variety of things. Number one, it was for acting. I did a lot of filmmaking all throughout middle school, high school, college, and then a little bit beyond college. I do less independent original content filmmaking these days because obviously I have 30 other things going on. Kind of got to pick and choose where I put my time. But a majority of my awards, that was around the time where I had won them for Best Actor, Best Filmmaker, Best Film. I competed at state competitions. I was in the Cannes Film Festival, which up until I was in the Cannes Film Festival, I thought it was pronounced Con. So I was in the Cannes Film Festival, which was really a massive, massive honor. I learned a week beforehand, and I was 20, so I had no money, so I couldn't fly to France. But it was still very cool to be in the Cannes Film Festival for actually voice acting.
Fun town. Yeah, how cool.
So I was able to win different awards for voice acting at Cannes. I was able to receive different awards all throughout high school and college for statewide filmmaking and acting competitions. So that really is what it was. It was performance and it was art. And I was just surprised. I was surprised. I had definitely some insecurities about my abilities and my skills. When I received awards, commendation, anything, any kind of accolade, I was surprised. I thought to myself, there's no way it could be this good. But I was told by a number of my teachers, mentors, as well as these state competitions, who told me, you should continue doing this. That this is, especially voice acting. When I was in community college, I was failing out of community college. Ironic, I'm a college professor now, but I was failing out of community college, and I, at the same time, was voicing national commercials and Super Bowl ads, and I actually had a teacher who told me, I think that you should drop out and I think you should do voice acting full time.
Wow.
And that was really nice to hear, because I was really struggling, and I'm very grateful and glad that I still I did take a break from college while I was doing voice acting. I ended up deciding to go to college and get my bachelor's degree in digital recording arts technology because I knew I wanted to work in the arts and I wanted to work in technology. Either or, both. I'm very grateful I get to combine both now. But that was what the majority of the awards were for, were best acting, best filmmaker at state competitions. And interestingly enough, it wasn't just for performance. I was also state middle school champion for Mario Kart and for Super Smash Brothers Melee, which jump-started my esports career before esports was even really a tagline.
Which leads me to my next question, which was I'm a fan of Barry Manilow for a long time, and one of my favorite things when his first live concert, where he did all the, he used to do advertisements. He wrote the music, songs, lyrics, etc. for advertisements like "I am stuck on a Band-Aid because Band-Aid stuck on me." I love that, so stupid. And so, what are some of the ads that you did that we might know?
Absolutely. Well, interestingly enough, I can actually bring up some of those ads if we are interested in that. I have a number of them saved. I also have the, I'm going to head on over to YouTube in order to get this,
this is fun.
Going. So let me go to, here we go. So right here, oops, and it's, come on, there we go. All right. I love VR, but you could tell what I was doing, which I was trying to push in the search bar, and the push button was like, you know what? No, I don't feel like it. So let's go for it. All right.
Okay, let's see.
So here is one of the most interesting commercials. This commercial was actually kind of a variety. When you look up Imperial Pearl on YouTube, you actually find a lot of videos of Olivia Culpo, who was Miss Universe, I believe, in around 2012. And the joke is that my mother always used to call her future daughter-in-law, because I voiced the commercial with Olivia Culpo, which was aired on Good Morning America, aired on the Super Bowl, aired locally in Rhode Island. And here is one of the variations. Usually when you voice a commercial, you voice around 2 or 3 different versions of the commercial. So the hiring agents can usually get their money's worth because they are paying you quite a bit in order to do national ads and spots. So here is probably, I think, my favorite, which, let's play this. And then I'm hoping is it sharing on screen?
Yep.
There we go.
Oh, great voice acting right so far.
That's not me, by the way.
I'm Olivia Culpo, and these are my Imperial Pearls.
Join us for Imperial's annual holiday sale event, East Providence, Rhode Island, Friday through Sunday during the first 3 weekends of December. Visit imperialpearl.com for more details.
Awesome!
Yeah, so that is one of the variations. That's probably actually one of my most well-known commercial variants. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, very kind of you all. And that is one of the variations of the commercial that I did. And I was actually at the grand opening of Imperial Pearl. I was at this event where Olivia Culpo was. A lot of people asked me, was she excited to meet you? And I said, no, that's not what? No. She didn't care. I don't even know if she saw the commercial.
It's the other way around. It's the other way around. You're the one who has to be excited about meeting her.
Yes, I'm the one who has to be excited. When you're a voice actor, even if you've been heard, that's kind of a weird thing to say out loud, is that my voice has been heard by millions of different people, and yet I am anonymous. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody really cares. When I go to like cons and different conventions and people learn about the commercials that I've done or the ones that I'm known for, especially my Connecticut lottery commercials in Connecticut, because if you've ever even driven through the area, you've heard my Connecticut lottery commercials, and it's just nice because I thought I liked attention when I was younger, and then I got older and I said to myself, ooh, actually I don't like this. This is not what I wanted. So voice acting is great because it allows you to turn your, who knows you and who doesn't, you can turn it on and off. And like people even listening to my regular speaking voice, they might not necessarily put it together until I say something, and until I say, oh, I've been a voice actor. Then it clicks in their head and they say to themselves, their brain goes off and they say, wait a minute, I knew your voice sounded familiar. You were in, that McDonald's morning meal deal commercial or a Cadillac commercial, whatever it might be, or whatever they heard. So that's just one of the examples that I usually love to show to people of one of my more well-known commercials.
Oh, it's wonderful. Now in VR, voice is really critical. This is how we figure out how people are feeling. We detect, this is the emotional charge and everything that's associated with it. For those of us in VR, since voice is so important, and you teach voice acting, you've taught it for educators in VR, we'd love to have you back. Would you love to take a voice acting class from him? Yes, whether you do it for real or not, paid or not, I think it'd be amazing. What are some tips you can give us to protect our voices and also project better, talk better in virtual reality?
That's a great question. I want to start with the project better in virtual reality. A lot of people might not realize this, but talking with your hands is not just an Italian, Irish, Massachusetts, Boston thing or something. All over the world, there's different cultures that utilize their hands when they talk, especially a number of European
y'all
cultures.
Can't see it, but I use my hands too much. I've broken mugs by slamming my hands while I'm in VR around and smacking it off the, because I can't see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Same. That's why I have to be careful, because I think there's something in the corner. Yep, I just hit my hand. So I proved it to myself. But utilizing your hands in voice acting is something that can be transferred to every other activation, whether any kind of performance that you have and you utilize. So a good example I can give is actually in a few hours, I'm going to host my my weekly Dungeons and Dragons game, a campaign that I run, and I'm a DM, I'm a dungeon master for actually a number of campaigns. I've found 2 or 3 consistent ones right now, and I'm performing I'm performing in VR, I'm performing in voice acting, I'm performing in pitch meetings, and I tell people all the time to remember one thing: your body is an instrument like a guitar. If you are to just take a guitar and you just strum it, right? You just strum the guitar, it's going to make the exact same sound over and over and over again, aka monotone in a manner of speaking, translates to monotone. So you have to utilize both your facial expressions and body language to convey a sound, because our brains are really, really beautiful in the way they do it for you. You don't have a choice. For example, I'm sure a lot of you can tell right now that I'm smiling. You can't physically see yet in virtual reality that I'm smiling. If you're on the phone with someone and they're happy, right? I'm not even talking about their volume. I am talking about just their regular tone of voice. You can tell that they're smiling, because smiling will literally change how your voice sounds. Again, your mouth moves. It's like an air instrument. It's it's like using a flute as an example, and you're pressing on different parts of the flute to make those different sounds. Your mouth works the exact same way. It's sound, it's noise, it's air. So of course it's going to change and adjust if your mouth is changing, as well as your brain is going to automatically change that tone for you when you are smiling. So
I have watched people. Yeah, I've watched people in VR who are experienced, and I've been in the same room with them, and they slouch over, and they just, their whole body becomes a giant C shape, and they kind of lift their head up, and they kind of lift their head up and do this thing, and they tend to have a pinched voice, and they're not even aware of it until, I'll say straighten up or touch their back or something, they'll straighten up, and then they'll have that open sound. So you're absolutely right. Our body is part of that instrument. We got to take care of it. Okay. And
very, very much so. And secondly is your voice, more specifically your throat. The misconception about vocal cords is they're actually vocal folds. So they're literal folds inside your body. So really what it is, it's more so about your throat when it comes to taking care of your voice. Obviously putting a lot of pressure on your vocal cords can fatigue them, but your throat is the one that is actually dealing with a lot of those vibrations, those sound vibrations, because sound is simply just molecules vibrating in the air. It's why when you go to space, there's no sound. There's no molecules to vibrate in the air. It's just a complete vacuum. So those molecules are vibrating along your throat. So the one most important thing and the easiest thing to do, because you don't necessarily need to take as good of a care of your vocal cords. If you're a regular person, you know, if you're an opera singer, you got to take care of both. You got to be very careful. In fact, you can make your throat bleed. That was one of the reasons for the protests in the voice acting industry, due to unsafe conditions and long working hours for voice actors, because throats would deal with those difficulties. And one of the best ways to take care of that is to understand, number one, what you are drinking, number two, what you are eating, and number three, the temperature that you are putting into your body. If you are going to go out and you're going to do any speaking gig whatsoever, do not drink something cold. Do not drink something cold. It is one of the funniest things that when I used to do some voice acting gigs, the recording studios always had waters available for you, and you could tell the engineers which audio engineers were experienced with voice actors and which weren't. The ones that were experienced would give you room temperature water or would offer you hot tea. The inexperienced ones would take one out of the fridge that is essentially an ice cube and give it to you and go like, here you go. And you would have to tell them, this ruins it. This ruins my vocal cords. Because cold is very good at reducing inflammation, but you want your throat to be nice and loose. Yes, absolutely. It shrinks. Yep, it's going to tighten up your vocal cords. It's going to make things. It's going to make things harder in order to perform. And additionally, with the temperature, what you are eating is very important as well. Less so what it does to your throat, more so what it does to your stomach. I am somebody who I had to learn this the hard way. I was diagnosed with GERD and Barrett's esophagus a number of years ago. This was at the peak of my voiceover and radio career. The worst time to get diagnosed with that. I was also in my early 20s, so doctors said it was impossible for someone my age to have something precancerous and that bad. And so it was a whole big nightmare. But one of the problems that happened, not to be gross, and I won't go into detail at all, is the burping, right? Your stomach makes noise, and microphones, no matter where you are,
pick it
in
up.
most 100, you're absolutely right. If your stomach is so much as grumbling because you're a little bit hungry, if your stomach is grumbling because you ate too much, if your stomach, you have to literally, before any type of speaking gig, you have to make sure that you are eating not too much, not too little, just the right amount, right? You have to make sure that you're eating just the right amount and eating something that your stomach is very happy with. The one thing I used to eat before every single speaking engagement and also before workouts, oatmeal. Oatmeal was my favorite. It was hot, so temperature,
Soothing.
and it's soothing, and it contains complex carbohydrates and a lot of fiber. It keeps you full for longer, but it keeps you perfectly full for a long period of time. That was the ultimate balance for me in both performances, acting, pitch gigs, and working out, ironically. So that's why I have a ton of oatmeal in my house at all times.
Me too.
Because oatmeal worked very, very well. And then, of course, the type of drink that you are drinking. Oftentimes, I usually recommend a tea known as throat coat. Throat coat is everywhere. You can find it. CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Target, pretty much anywhere that sells even sells like a little bit of tea is usually going to have throat coat. It was slightly less common in the kind of 2010s, but now it's literally everywhere.
Oh, it's everywhere. It's been everywhere forever. Yeah. Yeah. If you haven't tried throat coat, I just, the smell of it, I can smell it right now. I have so much in my drawer. I can smell it right now when you even talk about it because it's such a distinctive smell. And I grew up with it. So I love that. So I'd like to hear, anyone have any questions? We're going to unmute everyone so that you can answer about the voice acting, because then we're going to take this and talk about how this connects in with XR. So does anyone have any questions about the voice part? Because boy, our voices are so important in everything that we do in VR. I always have a cup of tea sitting next to me, and I don't do ice water for the same reason.
Yeah.
Any questions? Just want to see.
I have one.
Okay. All right, Steph.
What do you do if you swallow the wrong way in the middle of doing something live?
That's a good question. Now, to clarify, do you mean swallow something the wrong way and start coughing? That kind of...
Yeah, the gag reflex kicks in. Yeah, I've actually had that happen. Yeah, with
Yeah.
where I wasn't drinking anything, it was just a piece of saliva, and it was like, oh, okay, now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
The number one thing is to understand the context of where you are. If you have a microphone, always mute yourself immediately. That is something that it's kind of hard to do because your brain is more so focused on making you survive than it is on politeness.
No,
It wants to help you survive, but it's one of those things to, if you keep doing it over and over again, eventually it'll become your instinct. So number one is to always mute yourself, because I cannot tell you the amount of situations I've been in, whether it be in person or in an online environment right here, where someone is on a mic and they just are coughing for about 2 minutes straight and do not mute themselves. So that's one of the big things. Number two, I always tell people, it's good to have someone with you. So Laurel is a perfect example of this. If I accidentally swallowed something wrong, which with GERD and Barrett's is something that happens to me a lot, it absolutely can happen with that acid reflux, is that utilize body language that your co-host, your guest, or someone else understands, so that they know what's happening, and then they can continue on for you while you are taking a minute. Because when it's really bad, and I'm sure a lot of we can get some hand raises. Who's ever experienced that before? Where it's like 30 seconds and you feel, you're not dying. You feel like you're dying, and you're like, I don't understand how the human body works this way, that it's this intense. But it honestly, it happens. It might happen in Dungeons and Dragons tonight. It might happen when I'm coaching tomorrow, coaching esports tomorrow. It happens to all of us. So those are the two big things: are making sure that you build into your instincts to mute your microphone. And number two, if you're in an in-person environment, it's also important that you have other people around you that at least understand, even if they're not used to performing, at least understand to continue without you. Because the last thing you want to do is
the show goes on.
The show has to go on. You don't want to stop the show so everyone can listen to your cough for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
You want to.
It really is, and it's also very important. And we teach this when we're teaching teachers how to teach in VR, and we do our training of our speakers. If you're going to cough, mute, and we actually have them practice, because you're right, it takes some time to practice, because a mute and a cough and a sneeze and a belch things, they actually are high percussive sounds, and they can hurt the eardrums. And so not only do we have to protect our voice, but we have to protect our ears. And so muting when you cough, clear your throat, whatever, the whole thing, that is so important to mute first. And definitely, be ready to jump in. And that's why we train our team so beautifully. They just step in. Mostly it came from years of me losing the internet every 5 minutes. The team got well trained because I had crap for net. And so they were well trained. Just there she goes again. And we just step right in. So I love that. That's beautiful. All right, let's take this now. Great question, Steph. I want to take this now. This is not my story, but there's a similar thing of I've been in writing and digital storytelling, digital publishing most of my entire life. Now, how do you make that segue and make it apply to virtual reality? It's because you're telling stories and you're teaching it doesn't change. Digital publishing is the same, and teaching digital publishing is the same as VR, because we're just taking the story into the digital. And acting is very similar, but how did you make that transition for you from voice acting to virtual reality?
That's a great question. I believe that it started with when I became a professor around my early 20s. I was way too young to be a professor. I was completely unqualified. I loved teaching, and that's been probably one of my most consistent career paths has been teaching and owning and operating a business. And for me, I loved the idea of what I usually call unofficially, unpatented, whatever you want to call it, unofficial, cinematic teaching. I like to call it cinematic teaching. The reason I call it that is because I want my classroom, as often as possible, it's not always going to be that way. Sometimes you just have to deal with the fact that education, learning, and retaining information has to be done in a way that it's going to be boring. I always used to tell students that some of actually the most powerful lessons are going to be a little bit more painstaking than others, but you get through it because the reward is so great. So an example I always give students is when I'm teaching them Unity. I always start off the lesson with listen, there are elements of this I'm going to be able to make fun and help you learn. But for the most part, it's going to be this button does this button does this button does this. We have to get through that. We just do. So
Yep.
Number one, it was about acceptance that like there are just some lessons that were not going to be interesting. But I noticed that when I was honest with students in that way, they said, okay,
They love it.
because they realize even though this is painful, I'm going to be able to, I tell them learning Unity is painful, learning Adobe Audition is painful, learning Adobe Premiere is painful, learning these softwares is painful, but the results are you can make movies, you can make podcasts, you can build 3D worlds. Like it's going to be an uphill battle, absolutely. But then there were other lessons that were more theoretical, a little bit more abstract, more simulation and hands-on based, and I wanted to make them cinematic. I wanted to be reminiscent of Dead Poet Society in the way of education should be about that storytelling. And that traditional model of professor gets up, lectures for 3 hours to 200 students isn't necessarily effective. It's not outright bad, but when most universities across the United States started adopting almost exclusively that model, that's when it started to get bad. That's when test scores started to suffer. Students weren't learning to problem solve. They were more learning to regurgitate information, even if they were very knowledgeable about certain facts, whether it be in physics, mathematics. So what I had was a problem, which is I need to make my lessons more cinematic and more interesting. And I've been using virtual reality for a number of years, whether it be the Rift or Rift S, and I absolutely loved it, but I mostly only had experience with games or like kind of building or designing very, very simple experiences in games on the Oculus. And I decided, you know what if I can use this in the classroom? What if I can use the performance and experience type cinematic experiences that you have inside of virtual and mixed reality in the classroom? And I had no idea how to do that. I looked it up. I saw some references from other teachers. Again, this was around 2012, 13, around a little over 10 years ago. And when I started experimenting, I just said, okay, maybe I'll start with taking lessons I already teach and try to incorporate virtual reality. See if it's practical, see if it actually works. And I think one of the most powerful first big lessons I did was with Tilt Brush. And funny enough, not with art, but with a introduction to communications class that I was teaching. Most colleges and universities have an introduction to communications class. It's usually called something different. It's called Principles of Communications, Intro to Communications, communications theory, whatever it might be. In a lot of cases, there's 50 or 60 sections of them running. They can be pretty dry. They can be boring. They're relevant. They're definitely very relevant. But because the way the universities are structured, it can be difficult to really get the students engaged in those lessons.
Absolutely.
So there was a lesson. I love playing games with my students. Always love playing games. It's a little bit like when you give your child non-sugary cereal and you tell them that it's sugary cereal, but it's actually very healthy for them. It's got fiber in them. It's got that placebo effect where because it's sugary, they're like, oh, wow, this is great. And I feel great after eating it. And you're like, yes, that is exactly what is happening. So for my students, one of the games I used to play is the classic, write me directions on how to make a sandwich. Has anybody, give me some hand raises if anybody has ever heard of that game before. Some people play it with their children. Some people play it with their students. The game is very simple. Essentially, you take your student or whoever's going to be writing the directions, and you can vary it, you can customize it. Write me in 5 to 10 steps how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And what you learn from that is how exact, not exact, precise, not precise you have to be when you write the directions. So for example, you could say something very vague, which is, okay, get out the bread. What if there's 3 different kinds of bread? All right, well, I'm just going to, you told me to get out the bread, now I have 3 different kinds of bread. Okay, put peanut butter on the bread. Right? Maybe somebody would take that quite literally, and they would take the peanut butter jar and they would literally put it on the loaf of bread. So it teaches students that communication, oftentimes, especially in professional environments, has to be precise. You have to clarify. You cannot be vague. You cannot be ambiguous. It slows down time. It ultimately can cost companies money. There are a lot of consequences from not being precise in your language in a professional and also personal context. Like being vague can be very frustrating in relationships. You have to be able to communicate precisely what you want, when you want it, how you feel it. So with this, I decided, you know what? Students usually do relatively well with this after the first couple of rounds. Let me make it infinitely more complicated and just see how they react to
I see
it.
what's coming. I feel like I
So
need a drum roll.
So I essentially tell these students, and at first it kind of took me a while because I had to learn how to explain it. I had to learn to write the rules myself to this game. It was very meta in that way. Not meta the company, but meta the the other term for
process.
it. Yeah, the process.
Mhm.
So it was very meta as I'm writing directions for a directions writing game. And eventually I got it down pat where students have anywhere from 5 to 10 steps. They can do it anywhere in between that, 5 to 10 steps. And each sentence can be anywhere from 4 to 6 words. And the words can be as long as they want, long or as short as they want, to teach me, to direct me while in headset, how to draw a 3D animal. And adding in the 3-dimensional element. When I tell you the first time I did this, the students were so upset. They were so upset. And I warned them,
I love it. Yeah.
I am going to take every one of your directions completely literally. So, of course, a lot of them are saying, you know, if they want like a head of a cat, for example, a lot of them would say, draw a circle. Okay. You did not specify how big that circle is. You did not specify where it is. You didn't specify those things. So cool. What I'm going to do, and I can actually literally, funny enough, thank you, Engage. I can literally demonstrate this right now, right? Is like, let's say they tell me, okay, draw a circle. All right. Well, you didn't specify how big. There you go. That's your circle. And then they would say something like draw ears. And I would be like, okay. And they would say, no, ears on the circle. Oh, well, you didn't say that. Also, why are the ears both completely two different sizes? Well, you didn't say that. There are cats or dogs or creatures and animals with 2 different size ears, or one might be a little floppy. One might be, you know, it's nature. It's not always going to be completely precise in that way. So with this in mind, that's what was very interesting about it, is that I started to implement that. All right, I guess that's not going away.
It went away.
So I started.
It's gone.
Okay, perfect. I can't get my my buttons not working. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to leave that little blue thing there. So that was really the big thing, was that it definitely had an element of frustration and learning process, retention of information, creativity, problem solving. Once I took the 2-dimensional thinking and transitioned it to 3-dimensional thinking, yes, it made things more complicated. Yes, it made things more frustrating, as implementing virtual reality in professional and enterprise and education environments is very frustrating. I own McGee Innovation Labs here in Connecticut, and I made it a point that I only wanted to do work here in the home state because I didn't want to be a consultant, you know, consulting with a school in Arkansas and saying, oh, well, buy these headsets, that'll be, you know, $3,000 for that advice. I would rather just be very, very hands-on with clients. And even though I'm completely hands-on and helping them with deployment and helping them set things up, it's still very frustrating because you have to think in 3 dimensions. It makes things more complicated. There's more layers, but it infinitely improved my students' problem-solving abilities.
Absolutely.
So,
and you're developing deeper levels of critical thinking, because it's no longer just something by rote. You're breaking their heads open and making scrambled eggs, you know, and that's a different way of teaching. And that's part of what I love doing. You know, I love doing this.
Absolutely.
It's a
I know
beautiful
this
thing.
is your jam. This is educators in VR. There's a reason this organization has thrived and brought in so many wonderful, incredible people throughout the years, is because it is not only the beauty of the theory side of things, but it is also practice. It is both practice and
Mhm.
theory. That is what I love about EDVR in that way. So when I started bringing that to the classroom, I realized, oh, I could create that cinematic teaching, that storytelling teaching. I could bring, for example, last week we wrapped up my lab wrapped up its contract with the occupational and recreational therapy department, where I was building the medical diagnosis simulations, actually here in Engage and in Unity, where the students were able to experience what it's like to step into the shoes of someone with a particular medical diagnosis. Because
Love it.
oftentimes role playing in the classroom, especially for young students in their 20s, late teens, sometimes it can be different for adult learners who take it more seriously. But they just are. It's just hard to role play in that way, because you really got
But
to be into it.
don't you find that it is more natural when you bring them into a virtual experience that has role-playing opportunities? You don't have to go, okay, I want you to stand here and you're going to be the waiter and you're going to be the customer. They just move and do it without instruction, because it's like it's instinctive. They start to play automatically. I love that.
It's honestly, it was really fascinating to watch them. And I've done a number of these deployments, and that is something
Mhm.
that always seems to come up, which is the real emotions they feel. For
Mhm.
example, frustration. So Engage is really fantastic in the way of, you have these AI avatars that you can customize, which clients of Engage have loved. When I worked for Engage, now that I'm a business partner with them, continuously clients love the fact that you can customize AI avatars, because it really adds to the experience. And the students were talking to the AI avatars, who I programmed them specifically to frustrate them. So for the autism simulation, autism when you're in an environment that you're unfamiliar with can be very anxiety inducing. So I programmed the waiters to be very rude and say, all right, come on, let's go. Like, let's wrap this up.
Perfect.
And then others, for example, I'm very happy with how the left brain stroke simulation went, because I programmed the avatars to hear everything that you physically say out loud, which makes sense to you, which is the same with a stroke victim, is as aphasia. So so ChatGPT
Oh,
would
brilliant.
take it into its head and then translate it into aphasia, and then the avatar would react as such. So the students, I told them the challenge is you only have 4 minutes to do something very simple. You have to order something that you can eat without tremors. So if they order soup, you notice that the spoon is shaking, and you can't, like, you physically can't actually eat the soup. So they have to order maybe a donut. They can't really order a coffee because it just shakes too much. So they have to get it enclosed. So the students' frustration and anger at the AI avatars was very real. Like, they were getting very upset. They were getting
Love
very
it.
angry, because reality around them was covered. Like, we have, obviously that kind of barn door effect, where you're
Mhm.
immersed in the actual environment. So their brains were more likely than in a role-playing situation, just like you said, Laurel, where it's like, oh,
Mhm.
waiter over here and over here. Instead, it's being played by an AI, which feels very real, feels and sounds real. So then, therefore, the student reactions feel and sound real. Cinematic teaching. It feels like a movie, and that's what I
It
wanted.
is, and it's cinematic teaching that embraces the things that we talk about all the time about present engagement and embodiment, but it goes even further, because this is play acting at a higher level. So it's immersive, almost intrusive kind of feeling in on their brains, and that's almost like shock therapy. They learn more because it's so unexpected. This is not what students come in to every class with preconceived notions.
Yeah.
And doing this, involving VR, breaks that egg. It breaks those thoughts in such a beautiful way. Now, you have some fun things you're going to show us real quick because we only have a few minutes left. You
Yes,
had some
absolutely.
things.
So one of the things that I wanted to show, and I'm hoping this comes up as well, if I can actually find it. I should be able to bring it in. Here we go. Okay, perfect. So I actually would love to bring in one of the avatars that I was talking about.
Oh, excellent.
So I'm actually going to go with this right here. This is probably one of my favorites. Oh, it didn't actually choose it for me. Hang on. Here we go. Okay, so this is one of my favorites. This is the waiter in the autism diagnosis simulation. Now, when you are diagnosed with autism, especially the type of autism that makes social interactions very difficult, in the actual experience itself, and I won't put everybody through that because it's very uncomfortable. Purposefully, the lights are extremely bright. There are people arguing. The sounds are unbelievably loud, and any high frequency sounds specifically are difficult for those with autism due to their sensory overload. And what makes all of that worse allows the students to experience that frustration, that anger, and also that discomfort is actual interactions with the AI avatars. So what I'm going to do, and I actually do, I'm not sure, I think this is actually programmed with 3D voice, but I believe we can override that. Just in case it is, I am actually going to move my AI avatar probably a little bit closer, just in case the 3D voice is actually programmed into him. So what I'm going to do is let's go for it. So hopefully he's working all well and good. So I'm going to just ask him a question. Hi, can you please explain the menu to me? It's a little confusing.
What? Can you say that again? I didn't catch it. Speak up.
All right.
Oh. So
I do think he was, yeah. So the 3D voice, I believe, is programmed into him. I apologize. That was the one thing I did not think about taking off of him right before this experience.
So what did he say?
So he said, so with autism, I had him programmed so that it sounds like everything you say is a whisper to him. So he says, "What was that? Speak up. I can't hear you."
Okay.
Right. So let me try. Let me try one more time. Here we go. Yes, I said I would really love an explanation of the menu, please. Can you kind of like give me a run through on what the menu items mean?
I still can't hear you. Try again, but make it quick. What do you want to know about the menu?
He said, try again, but make it quick.
So, what do you want to know about the menu? That was wonderful.
Very rude. And also a little bit of behind the scenes knowledge. So I programmed his specific GPT that he doesn't hear you for a total of 3 to 4 different times. So he's going to continue to not hear you for 3 or 4 times so that your frustration builds, and then the students are more likely to ask something in an aggravated tone or in an aggravated phrasing, which he is designed to then respond with additional rudeness and disrespect in that way.
You can actually program in tone of voice and how to respond in these?
Yeah, and it also kind of depends too, especially with the custom AI avatars, you have to make sure that you're picking the specific voice that they have. And Gage has, I believe 12 different voices, 6 men and 6 women. So I was very careful.
On the voice model.
Yeah, so the voice model that I picked, I made sure that it was the most disrespectful sounding, and I picked this guy. So sorry, I forget what the voice name is, so I apologize for that. As I apologize more specifically to the voice itself, but basically, I wanted to pick a male voice that was intimidating, deep, and rude and disrespectful because, especially the big thing about all the studies and research based on social interactions and autism is that men's voices, not to trash talk men right now, I don't care, I'm a man, but to say that about men is that men especially have to be cautious and conscientious about how they are speaking, because especially having bass in your voice, you can come off the wrong way. Like, for example, when I sound tired, it can actually be misconstrued as angry. This goes back to the introduction to communications class. When I tell people that certain tones could be misconstrued of two different things, it's just like body language, such as arms crossed. When I cross my arms, usually it's just because it's kind of comfortable. Like it's just a way for me to put my arms somewhere where they're not hanging down. But a lot of people will see that as closed off, disrespectful, or they might recognize it as, oh, you're just getting comfortable. But that's just another example of being very, very careful to pick the right voice, pick the right tone, pick the right cadence, pick the right pacing. Everything has to be nothing's ever going to be perfect, but as close to perfect as possible in order to make the students, in order to elicit a feelings of frustration and anger, so that when they take off the headset, I get to say, this person right here exists in real life. And your patients that you are going to be working with are dealing with people like this. So you now get an inside look.
Or are like this.
Or are like this, you know, and so you get a better inside look, and it allows them to treat their patients better, more effectively, because they understand that sensory overload. It reminds me of a clip from a medical show that I saw recently where someone on the spectrum came in, and the only nurse that he would speak to, her sister was also on the spectrum. So what she did is she turned off the lights inside the hospital room. She closed the door. She made sure that her phrasing was good, specifically so he would understand it. And they were able to treat him. They were able to treat him much faster, much easier, because he was able to finally explain his symptoms and what he was dealing with. So
Absolutely.
it's just a great way to learn.
Powerful. It is. It is. All right. Do you have another quick show and tell for us? That was awesome, and we'll have more audience questions here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well.
I think there's a couple, but I believe the other voices also have the 3D voice programmed into them.
Okay.
So
but any other goodies?
Yes. Let me go into here. Hopefully I can find it.
So everyone get your questions ready. We'll be answering questions here as soon as he's done with the next little demo.
Let's go here.
Always pushing the limits. I love this.
Yes, and this is a little bit of a complicated model, so we might freeze for just a quick second. Here we go. And I'm gonna make this nice and large so everybody can kind of see it a little bit easier.
Wow.
So I have a lot of meetings with medical professionals here in Connecticut, and one of the main drawbacks that usually they have with their in-person simulators, which are extremely expensive. I don't know if anybody has ever seen an in-person simulator such as a mannequin. Those mannequins oftentimes will cost upwards of $100,000. And
easily.
They're also limited in the interactions they can have. It's very cool that they can have interactions, but they have to be programmed with those specific interactions. So
absolutely
this is
frustrating.
Very frustrating. So this is oftentimes one of the many, I usually have many models, but I like to just stick to a couple when doing any kind of pitch, especially for medical institutions, this is an adult heart and lungs. And you can actually see how the heart is beating. And I'll utilize these types of models, especially in Engage. Engage is really great at loading these for medical training purposes, because when you are learning in 3D, rather than looking in a 2D textbook, you can also retain information that you might not expect, such as the varying sizes of the heart versus the lungs, as well as the circulatory system, how the heart actually beats. Oftentimes when I'm bringing headsets into K through 12 institutions, this is one of the main things that I show them, because a lot of the kids in the health sciences classes don't actually have an understanding of how a heart looks and how it beats. Oftentimes they think a heart is just one big beat. And a lot of people think that. That seems to be kind of a common misconception about a heart, is that it just beats in unison, kind of like this. But I like to bring in 3D models such as this is, again, one of the many that I've either built or I have licensed. And this is just a great example of showing something in 3 dimensions that otherwise someone either A, would not know, or B, jumpstarts their fascination, interest, or lesson and training in health sciences itself.
Now, I know some people are going to ask, what's the red down under? Oh, you got rid of it. What's the red underneath?
Sorry. Let me bring it back.
I know what it is, but I want to have you explain, because they all together.
Here we go. Oh, let me actually turn this around. So the red underneath here, usually I have to have, given that I'm not a medical professional, usually I have to have them explain the different parts to me. So the, I believe this is the,
It's the diaphragm.
I forget the name for it. Yeah. So
yeah, it's the diaphragmatic muscles that actually, the lungs themselves do not move. You need to have the diaphragm pushes and drops to make the lungs actually work.
And hopefully I can show it. And people are more than well. I think people are probably stuck in their seats right now, but I will leave this up. You can see exactly what Laurel is talking about. If you actually look at the diaphragm, how it's going down and then up, and it is literally physically pushing the lungs right here.
Which is, again, something that people don't understand is lungs are not a muscle. They don't have any motion. That motion is controlled by the diaphragm.
Yes, they're more like very valuable balloons.
You got it. You got it. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. All right, questions from the audience. We'd love to hear from you. Thoughts on all of this? This is facing. Okay. That is so cool. Questions. Drew, do you have a question? Remember, if you're on the laptop or a desktop in 2D, you can M is mute and unmute. If you're on a mobile device, you press and hold the microphone just like a walkie-talkie. If you're on your headset, just look at your watch and you can mute and unmute. Drew, did you have a question? Drew, we're not hearing your audio. If you check the audio settings under your the gear on the make sure that, let's see what you're on before I start giving instructions. You're on an iPad. You have to make sure you have permissions given and then hold down the button. Any Elizabeth, anyone? Cam Kurt, Dr. Murray, would love to hear from you and from our team.
I just want to say thank you. This is very inspiring. It has me really excited about what's possible at our college. I work at a community college and excited about what you've shown. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate you coming.
It's so exciting to see all the possibilities here we just had a great presentation, our first of 3, by Mount Royal University students from Calgary, the psychology department. We're presenting on different forms of XR and psychology, and they were doing PTSD. And there is a lot of research that's coming out about bringing VR into the hospital before people are released, to teach them about what's going on in their body and start therapy, because and this is such a beautiful example of preparing someone for heart surgery, heart lung surgery or anything else, to actually be able to see this and feel more comfortable about it. But it's also, as you said, it's so important for the nursing staff and the doctors to work on those empathy muscles. To really understand what's going on. So there's just multiple layers here of learning. So it's so wonderful. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah. Anyone else? Because I have a million. Any other questions? Well, I'm going to ask just a few questions here as we wrap this up. Since you started, the concept of VR and XR and immersive technologies has changed dramatically, and you've been a part of that from the earliest days to now. What do you see as happening now, especially in education, because that's where our heart lies, But how do you see it working now, and what's the future? That's
a wonderful question. I have part of this response is going to sound a little harsh. Not against nobody in this room is going to be offended, but it's going to sound a little harsh. When I talk to the different universities, the different actual independent companies like the enterprise private sector companies, especially here in Connecticut, with my innovation lab, I tell them the exact same thing pretty much every time, which is that Zuckerberg had advertised the metaverse as this big thing. It confused a lot of people, and then there were a bunch of people who changed their LinkedIn profiles to say metaverse expert for 20 years, even though this came out 5 seconds ago, other than Neil Stephenson's coining of the term. Just like when everybody, listen, no shame if you were one of the ones who did that, maybe a little shame, but it's just like with the AI, suddenly, OpenAI comes out with ChatGPT, and then suddenly, people have been an AI expert for 30 years. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard them mention that before. So
I'm with you. Learning something for 3 weeks does not make you an expert. That's always been my rule.
100%. I love the term practitioner, because practitioner means that you know a little bit, or maybe you know a lot, but you are still learning. And I think that's a lot more powerful. I'd rather hire a practitioner because
absolutely
they're more willing to continue to learn new things and then implement them.
It's humility.
Absolutely. And then the metaverse, I don't want to say died, because I know that's a big trigger word, and there's a bunch of different news stories that say it's dead, it's not dead, whatever. The point is that it's now, what's really nice is that I ironically saw a business opportunity from that death, which sounds kind of weird, because what I always say is now that's all that's left is the truth. All that's left is the truth, which is that like VR is really, really amazing for very specific things and very specific use cases. I don't necessarily think it's something that should be used all the time for every solution, everywhere, always. It shouldn't always be used for gaming, shouldn't always be used in the classroom, shouldn't always be used whatever it might be. But what has been proven over and over and over again, even by Stanford University, Jeremy Bailison, as well as a number of other really incredible researchers. There's an amazing VR researcher here in Connecticut at UConn that is aligned with Stanford University. They have done thorough research that has proven over and over again that when you use VR for specific niche purposes in the right way, it saves tremendous amounts of money. Tremendous amounts of money. Retention of information actually does work in virtual reality. It doesn't matter that this technology is going to have technology glitches, because guess what? We often forget that our phones still have glitches. We, oftentimes I'll work with students who, during deployments, they're like, this is kind of frustrating. Why is this not working now? Why is the internet not working now? Why is the hotspot not working now? Why is the software not working now? And I always remind them, okay, but your computer also breaks down. Your laptop also breaks down. That technology has been out for 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it might be. So what I love about that is I just love being truthful and honest. No, you do not need to spend $50,000 making a digital twin of your university when you have no literal use case for a digital twin for your university. It should be practical use cases. So what I really love about XR now is it does seem like that truth is coming out more and more, and now companies are being more cautious but also thoughtful about how they invest in emerging technology, because it's become less of a buzzword now. It's become less hype. And I always think that less hype is a good thing, because again, all that's left is the truth. It's, if I spend money on this, what's my actual ROI? I don't want to buy 30 headsets just because it's cool, just because VR is cool. I want students, I want the biology department to be able to walk through a human cell and blow up a human cell, or I want the medical school to be able to actually explain to patients the different parts of the heart and lungs, not on a whiteboard, but in a way where they can physically hold it and see it. So what I see with XR now is the hype has thankfully started to dissipate, and especially with AI, and I've had many conversations, especially regarding AI. The wonderful Dr. Angelina Reinhardt came to visit me in my home for a few days, and it was really, really wonderful. She's a very good friend of mine. I'm going to be honest. I only have a few like really good, like genuine friends in XR. Laurel, Angelina, as a couple examples, who I would genuinely do anything for because they're practical minded. And Angelina, what's great about her is she was flown out to do presentations on AI at Central, and she's so smart and she's so wise. She got them to completely rethink how they were doing the workshops. So she did it in a way where she made it niche, specific, and practical in that way. And they greatly appreciated that. And they said, they were like, we didn't think of that previously, but this is great. We're going to get ROI out of this. Besides it being a general workshop, it can be niche, it can be practical. People can walk away with real skills or real knowledge that they can actually utilize. So that's what I love about where XR is going. Is I know it sounds bad. The hype needs to die, because that excitement does kind of waste a lot of money, because people start investing in technologies because it's cool without thinking about, wait, what am I actually going to use this for? There's so many headsets around the country that are just gathering dust in official university labs as well, and in medical school labs, because they were bought and they just never really they got utilized twice, and they said, this is cool, time to put them in a closet for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and there's a study that just came out that won a bunch of awards at the IEEE conference recently. I think it was in Canada. Or no, it was in France where it was, but it doesn't matter, where they actually studied long-term VR educational use and found that there's that first blush of wow, awe, wonder, and then it dies off, as it should. But if the teacher persists and the students persist in learning after that initial drop of interest, because that will happen no matter what you can be learning to knit, you could be learning to drive a car for the first time, whatever that is, it's going to wear out, and then it accelerates. The waveform lifts right up. The learning improves to 200. We've gotten research, reports 200 to 400% increase in learning. Again, it's appropriateness of use that makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
More importantly, we are heading for an immersive world, AI-driven immersive world. The Star Trek holodeck is the one we always talk about. No matter what you may be thinking, where you're going, if you are not ready for an AI-driven immersive work experience, life experience, living experience, you're going to be behind the times. So right now I call this kind of our diaper age. We're still crawling around on the floor, and figuring this out. But we're moving to a transition where we won't need the headsets. We don't need the glasses. We're going to be in that holodeck kind of experience. And that's what we're experiencing. We're all pioneers in this right now. So
absolutely,
the schools got to be ready for this.
Yeah.
Because they're creating future employees that are going to be building all of this and supporting all of this. So AI and XR is such a magical weaving together right there. And so that's, right there. So we're ready for it. You all ready for it? I'm ready for it. I can't wait for it to be here. Maxwell, thank you so much. You are my heart. You are amazing. You were such a gifted educator, communicator, but also just one of my favorite people. I just love it, and I love it.
Thank you so much. Same to you, Laurel.
It's so wonderful. All right, y'all. Thank you to our lovely waiter, to our wonderful heart. See, there's our heart right here. To Maxwell McGee. Yay, amazing. He will be back with a healthy Chris Madsen and Dr. Tom Furness. Hopefully be off the road soon. Not in December. Your next one is in January, I believe, right? Yep, you're going to be back in January. And because we've got all the holiday events that are coming up in December. I can't believe it. We got Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming, and all the holidays are hitting us right away here. But we will be back next week with the XR News to bring you the latest news and information from across the metaverse. And I believe Scott Fitzgerald and Aaron are our guests from the Love Letters to the Sci-Fi Community. awesome group that is in VR chat that is exploring Star Trek and all kinds of futuristic science fiction worlds and experiences there in VR chat. And they're going to be talking about the community after we do the basic news. So we'll be all ready for that. And we also have our holiday parties coming up and our holiday storytelling. So many different events coming up. And I'm most excited, Maxwell, I don't know if you've heard, we're doing this in partnership with IREX and Girls Team Institute and others. We're doing this Learn to Discern program that we're going to be meeting here in about 45 minutes right here in Engage XR. And it is about understanding the persuasive nature of the media and fake news and all kinds of things. And we're going to be setting everyone up in around an editorial meeting to figure out what news is, what's going to make it in the news, and then what influences that news and how is it controlled. So it's going to look inside the newsroom kind of feeling. So get ready for that coming up in just a few minutes, or about 45 minutes here. And the rest, thank you. We'll see you all again on Wednesday. So let me go through the credits here really quickly. Yay, because we love our team and we have our closing thing. So again, we're on the every Wednesday we meet here in Engage XR. We'll be exploring some other platforms in the next year to bring you the news and amazing interviews from all over the metaverse. If you'd like to be featured here, let us know. And on the first Wednesday of the month, we have Rachel D. talking about med health. The next one coming up is with Dr. One of my dearest friends. I just love him, Jose Casa Ferrer, who is just released an amazing research on the use of XR and VR technology in burnout and secure and just some amazing medical stuff we just love he's doing. And then the Innovation Spotlight, we just finished. We're going to be having that back in January. And I want to thank everyone in our team who has done so much to help support this. This is volunteer run, volunteer led. And if you'd like to get involved in the show, please let us know, because we need more monkeys in our circus. And you can find all of our show and everything and all our social media on our YouTube and all the different channels that we're on. And thank you again to every single one of our sponsors who help, and our partners who help make this possible, because we can't do that without them. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Maxwell. And Lance, when you're ready, closing. We need our closing video.
We did a thing!
Yay!